Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome back. So I'm going to do a couple of video series for basically my end of the year book haul. These books I have acquired since starting this channel, so from June till now. Instead of doing minor ones and stuff throughout the year, I was just going to do one big one. The reason being, I don't like all these just for, attention grab and stuff, but I did want to do a full video series just because next year I'm planning to do the read what I own and not buy any. I do have exceptions to the no buy rule. I have a list of books that are coming out next year that I am anticipating and still going to get. And then I'm allowing myself on my birthday, which is in February, to buy 2 books. So that is the extent. The list is like maybe 7 titles or something. So under 10 books next year through the course of the year. But these are the ones, and there's several. And this series, this will be essentially young adult mostly, or middle grade, with the exception of a few. I bought them at the bookstore that I go to locally. I've been trying to read around the world, and they have a lot of awesome titles that are, diverse titles from authors from around the world. And I'm using that to supplement the rest of the books I plan to read from around the world, but I wanted to make sure that I was benefiting that small business. And she's has such a diverse store there anyway. They have Pride titles, they do Women's History Month, Black History Month, like all the things. And so I wanted to make sure that I supported them as much as possible, especially since I won't be buying very many things next year. So that's what this book haul is going to be. And then I have a nonfiction one coming up, and then another one that will be classics and kind of odds and ends. So look out for those. But these will be first. And I do have a few piles here, so it's going to take a while. And if you've read any of these, have thoughts on any of these, please let me know. The first one is the one that doesn't fit this category, but it's the Sword of Kagan. I've been wanting to read this one for so long. I finally got it so that I can work on it next year. It's a thicker one, but it is actually finally a standalone fantasy that I don't have to, put a lot of time and effort into reading the whole series. And I'm really excited about this one because it's marketed as similar to The Last Airbender, with the earth bending and all that kind of stuff as the magical elements, but at the heart of it is a family. So I believe it's a mother and a son, and you get to get their points of view. And I just, if you've been following anything on my channel, you know that I love family dynamics, especially intricate world building. And I do enjoy fantasy a lot, and I've kind of fallen away from that just because I don't want to fully commit to long series. So this is the perfect way for me to kind of explore and get back into the genre. And if my cat knocks down my books, I apologize. This one is a middle grade book, and so I had a friend who met this author, Catherine Applegate, and they said that they had been a huge fan of hers growing up, and I couldn't remember having ever read anything from her, so I picked up this book. It sounds fascinating. It's the story about a little bear who, in World War One, the soldiers get these little bears as like companions or whatever, to kind of let them know that they're not alone, to lift their spirits and stuff. And it's that bear's journey, into the war, into the, this horrors and stuff. And And I am really excited to kind of experience the war from like a point of view of someone so innocent, because obviously most of the kids that went there, they were kids, they were young people who were fighting, and had no business being there. So I think this will explain that differently, and I really love what it says on the back. Here at Second Chance's home for the tossed and treasured, our only job is to wait for hope, with hope, always with hope, and while we wait, to care for each other. And I think that is a beautiful thing to teach children. So that's this one. My cat is driving me crazy. The next one is Lines of Courage. Now, I kind of did the whole similar author things when I found this book, and then this author came up, and it's Jennifer A. Nelson, and she had a whole line of very interesting things. This is the one that I chose to get. So this is during World War II, and it follows a bunch of children trying to get to safety, flee their countries, especially during the Jewish deportations. So it follows one from Austria-Hungary, Britain, France, and Germany. So all on different sides, all different reasons for trying to flee, who have to come together to try to survive. And I thought it would be interesting to kind of see the different sides of the line when it involves the children. This one is King and the Dragonflies. And this is, I actually have another book on my pile here who's from the same author. This one is about a kid who loses his big brother, and he thinks he's in a dragonfly who's coming around him. He lives in the Louisiana bayou, but he's surrounded by dragonflies, and he's trying to search for the one who is his brother. So this deals with grief and has a bit of like hope and a little bit of mythicalness with it, I'm assuming. But I am really excited just to kind of explore this writer's stuff. Just I see him everywhere. I want to make sure I get I see their stuff everywhere, and I wanted to see what they had to say. So that being said, this one is from the Rolling Rabbit bookstore. I'm just gonna go with this one next because it's from the same author. So this is Hurricane Child. I think they changed their name in between writing these. This is really interesting. And so this one is takes place on the U.S. Virgin Islands, and one of the characters is also from Barbados. So it's hard to find some authors who are specifically from some of those islands. So I'm just doing it from a character who's basically the main protagonist from that island as kind of my option for that. If I find someone who's a writer who's actually from the Virgin Islands, I will add that to my TBR, but this is what I found so far to make up for it. And this also is middle grade, but it also has LGBT rep with the two main characters, the one from the Virgin Islands and Barbados, both being girls who realize they like each other. So that's also from them. And then there was a used bookstore that I found that was near work, and I got a couple of books from them this year. And this one is the YA one that I got. And I'm really excited about this one because one of the main characters in here has Tourette's, and I want to see how the author handles and approaches that. I've never read a book that features a character with Tourette's, so I'm really anxious and hopeful to see. And what actually drew me to this book is I think it is the most beautiful cover. I love the colors on it. I hope you can see it because it kind of shines a little bit, and it was displayed outwardly, so I actually saw it and I had to stop. And when I saw that it was something I had never read about before, I definitely had to pick it up. So all these next ones are going to be from that same bookstore. If they do have an online store, if you want to, it's Rolling Rabbit Books, and they have a section specifically for Read Around the World. So they have children's, middle grade, and young adult titles so that you can do the challenge. She was inspired actually by me coming in and asking that she made it simple and just put it and separate them on her website. So it's really cool that they have that option here and that diversity here. So so for these first two, it's a duology. So I'm going to include them together. And so this is from author from Vietnam. And what's exciting for me about this is I've read a lot of Vietnamese authors or even Vietnamese American, but they're always dealing with either the Vietnam War or the lead up to it or the effects of it there, and or even just trying to escape it. So this one, these ones take place more in the modern times, present day, and then go back to their parents. So not present day. Apparently it's set in 1999, but it's not directly following the war. And so for My Father, the Panda Killer, you follow the daughter who is struggling in her life, and it sounds like she doesn't really connect with her dad, so she tries to uncover her dad's story, what he's hiding, what's making their relationship so different. And so then you get his story in 1975, and I'm just really interested in the obvious portrayal. It's going to be generational trauma. It's going to be how the people at that time who endured the horrific war there, and how that affects their children and the relationships with their children going towards the future. So that's what this one's about. And then this is her brother's story as he tries to uncover their mom's past. So this one is My Mother, the Mermaid Chaser. And so this one is 2008 for the starting period, and then her life in 1975 as well. So I'm really excited to kind of read a bit more contemporary than the things that I've read so far from Vietnam. This one has been on my list forever. And since I'm not going to buy anything next year, I wanted to make sure that I try to get this read. It's a classic. This was the 50th anniversary edition of Watership Down. I've never read it. I always hear people talking about it. It's one that I definitely should have read as a child, and I haven't, so I'm going to remedy that. Another one, and I was able to actually get that one ordered through the library, which this one for some reason wasn't available. And I do plan to do The Wind in the Willows sometime next year as well, but that's obviously not going to be one of my purchases. So this one is, and I'm sure you guys have at least read this one. So please let me know what to think going in, what to expect, I guess. So the next one is Saints of the Household, and this is a Costa Rican American author, but an indigenous Costa Rican from the Bribri. Yes, so I haven't read anything from this area, and I am really excited to get the indigenous culture aspect of it, rather than being the more Americanized version, or the immigrant, or the the hyphenate. It sounds like they're going to have to try to understand themselves. These two brothers who who struggle with anger issues and like violent tendencies and stuff, and they have to try to understand their culture and their past in order to move forward and let go of a lot of that anger and stuff. So it does sound really interesting, and I was actually recommended by the bookshop owner when I was looking for other stuff, and so I'm curious of what it's going to be. This one is Joy to the World, and this one is a trans, I believe, middle schooler who is trying to join the cheerleading team in Texas. And so she has to fight the system. She has to stand up for herself. She has to, do all this just to accomplish her dream and to continue to maintain her identity. And so it's going to be really, I'm hoping, inspirational read, but I know it's going to be some tough issues that will be discussed here that I feel are necessary, and I'm looking forward to. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. This is from Malawi, and it's a autobiographical memoir type of novel that is. So this kid, William Kamkwamba, he makes a windmill to be able to give electricity to his whole town and his village. And he's young when he does this, and it's really cool because it actually has pictures throughout, so that you can see, what he actually uses to make the windmill, I always like to, especially when it's a true story and stuff, get to see and understand exactly what he's talking about. So there he is. And I believe that it's a film that they made on Netflix as well, which I haven't watched because I don't have Netflix, but I am anxious to read the book. So Wishing Upon the Same Stars. This is a story about a girl who moves into a new neighborhood in San Antonio, and she's Palestinian, and she doesn't know, she doesn't have a lot of friends. She feels alone, and her neighbor is Jewish, and they become friends, and they start to learn each other and appreciate each other's life and culture and history, and then the conflict between Israel and Palestine that's going on right now, more than a conflict. They are realizing what it means for each of their families, their culture, and the importance of basically trying to understand each other. So I'm not sure the relationship with the person who wrote it, if she has any of the identities mentioned, but I did want to read something kind of a bit more hopeful rather than all the other stuff that I'm reading about this genocide and stuff. So this is, I believe it's more middle grade, ages 8 to 12. So it should be handled a lot more delicately. I just did want to see how it's handled, and how I'm hoping it's accurate and something that will be good for people to learn and understand. I'm about done here. Eyewitness Accused, my story of injustice. So this is a story of somebody who she and her father were falsely accused of terrorism in 2005. And this is a true story of her account, made, for young readers. But she was in New York City when the Twin Towers fell. But she is from Guinea. And obviously they had nothing to do with it. But because of the hatred and racism and everything going around at that time, she and her family were targeted. So this one will be really powerful and important. And it looks like there's a few more in this series, which I'll have to take a look at. They're eyewitness accounts of their different fighting. So it's an eyewitness series. So there's a few, and I'm not sure who they are. I'd have to look them up. But there's one for my story of resilience, my story of persecution, and my story of activism. And they're the authors writing their own stories, or the people who are doing it are the authors of this, I guess. The next one is Dust. This is the most recent one that I got. And this one is about deaf culture. The main character is deaf. And I had just read a book about, for a nonfiction book last month for deafness and deaf culture, and learned a lot about it, the history of it. And I wanted to read now a fictionalized account of somebody dealing with it. So, not dealing with it, that was a horrible way to say it, but someone who, I guess, their experience. And so this is, I think that she is deaf and part of a hearing family. So she doesn't really get to interact with deaf people daily. She doesn't go to a school or anything. And then she meets a person at the cafe who is deaf. And so she's hard of hearing, and the kid she meets is deaf. And so they connect. I should have read that part before. I read it when I bought it, but then I didn't get it right when I was explaining it, so I apologize. But anyway, she gets to learn more about the culture. I'm hoping that American Sign Language and stuff comes into fruition here. I'm not sure how they're going to approach it within the story, but I am very interested to see how it is portrayed. I've got just a couple more. Just don't want to knock them all down first. So this one is another trans story. This was actually published quite a while ago and republished because originally the publishers, when this was written, wanted to publish it under, so it's a trans girl named Melissa. They originally published it under the girl's dead name. And the author wanted to get the story out there, but she had to fight and fight and fight for them to finally publish it the way that it was meant to be published. And I don't know how I feel about that, that they would out and do it that way. But I guess, that explains how far we've come, and the prejudice still around trans people. So I'm hoping that this is a worthy book, and I'm looking forward to reading more. I don't get to read a lot of trans stuff. I try to actively read it, but it's really hard to find stuff, especially that I haven't read, because I try to read the ones that I'm aware of. So Each of Us a Universe. And so this one, it's a co-author, and one of the co-authors is from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I've been wanting to read this book for a while. I just have not been able to fit it within my reading schedule ever since I've been reading about, Africa, and especially after I read Cobalt Red about the Congo. And I've been wanting to read something that, I mean, obviously those are horrific things, but this would not humanize it because it's already humanized in those books, but it's a lot easier to fully absorb and understand things when it's a single person telling the story. That unfortunately, a lot of people tend to dismiss stuff once you get the statistics really high. And so, especially with, the wars and the genocides and stuff, people, for some reason, easily dismiss when they hear millions or big numbers like that. But when you talk to a single person affected by it, it affects them more, just because it humanizes it for them rather than make it a full statistic. So I wanted to read a story about a personal account. And yes, this isn't a fiction. This is fiction, not nonfiction, and it's not her biography or anything like that, or even memoir. But she's taking her experience and giving it to this child, and so I'm really excited to learn more about the story from people who are there rather than history and investigative research and stuff by people who don't live it. So this story is about a girl who's grieving that her mother is dying, and so she feels alone and scared, and so she keeps hiding off on this mountaintop, or trying to get the mountaintop. She's like camping out at the foot of the mountain, and she befriends this girl who's from the Congo, who feels lonely and isolated in this new country, and so she seeks that same kind of connection, and they find it in each other, and learn about how it says, what do you do when you're facing the impossible? So they learn what's possible, and I'm really excited to see how this story deals with how one girl is dealing with grief of a parent and a loved one, and the other one whose story that we don't quite know yet, who is an immigrant and who will have a lot to share her about overcoming and endurance and basically survival and grief and all that stuff. So I'm really excited getting a story from her perspective. Last two, and I saved the last two on purpose, the last one specifically on purpose. So this one is All the Yellow Suns, and this one is about, this is actually so it's a sapphic romance within it, but mostly it's about this girl who's, it's a coming of age story about this girl who's lives within an immigrant community. It does not say what their background or anything is, but she meets somebody new who teaches her about activism and fighting for her community and fighting for herself and finding her voice. So I'm interested to see what each of their stories are, what they're fighting for, and finding out more about where they come from and why, what they're experiencing from being there. And I also thought I really liked the colors. It's a pretty book. And then the last one is the one I'm actually most excited about. So when you go into a bookstore, we don't get that a lot now, when you can, just, read anything. But just wandering in a bookstore and finding a book that speaks to you rather than something that everybody recommends or something that's very viral on social media and stuff. And so we kind of miss out on reminding ourselves what our tastes are, what we're looking for, and what speaks to us. Sorry. And so I walked in a couple weeks ago to that bookstore, and I was just, looking around, waiting in line because I had a book on hold that I was going to get, but I was just going to see if I could find something else as well. And I grabbed this book. I don't know why, but it's actually, so Rana June, and the One and Only Now. So this is an Iranian American girl, a teenager, who it takes place in San Francisco in 1996. And I started this year, the first book that I gave 5 stars when I read it back in January and still constantly think about is Martyr. And it's also a book about an Iranian American. And he was a queer man who had, was into drugs and was grieving a loss he didn't quite understand. He was obsessed with martyrdom. And then you kind of got his backstory. His mom was killed in a plane crash that was not a crash, it was actually like shot down, bombed. And he has been obsessed with martyrs ever since, making your life or your death meaningful. And so he finds out this artist in New York is dying, and she's at the museum, and she's allowing anyone to go and talk to her about anything. And so he decides he's going to ask her, how did you decide to make your death impactful and meaningful? Like, this is the representation of the martyrs that he's always appreciated. And so it's a really interesting story about what is in a life, and him finding reason within his life, because he thinks there's nothing going on, and he's lonely and just lost. And so he mentions a lot of Iranian books that I did add to my list. And throughout the year, I've been reading a lot of different stuff from Iran, whether it was nonfiction, history books and stuff like that. I've been trying to learn and understand. It was just fascinating to me. For some reason, that book just really spoke to me. And I found this book, and she's an Iranian American girl who likes girls. So it kind of feels like it parallels that other story that I really liked. But she lost her best friend almost a year ago. And so she's also dealing with grief and the struggle. And I just wanted to read something. I felt like it would be a perfect way to bookend the year of reading very similar parallel stories, one from an Iranian American man, one from an Iranian American woman, and just seeing if this speaks to me the way that did, if it hits me just right. I'm really excited for it, and maybe I'll try to do that this year. Is whatever my favorite book that I read in January, I'll try to find something that parallels it or maybe expands on it to read at the end of the year in December. I feel like that's a great way to cap out a year of reading. So I really have high hopes for this book, and I really am excited. And one of the things that sold me on it as well is that she is a huge fan of Tupac, which I am as well. And so I want to just feel immersed in this. And now that I had researched and read a bit more about Iranian history, especially our United States involvement in the coup that overthrew their president decades ago. But just trying to, now that I understand more of the context clues and stuff, I'm really hoping that it helps me appreciate this even more than I already appreciated learning and reading with Martyr. So this is how I'm going to end my year. This is my first video for book hauls. This video is already long, so can you imagine if I added all the extra books in? That's why I'm separating them. So if you have read any of these, please let me know. If you have any comments on ones of these that sounded good or interesting to you, or even suggestions on what I should start my year with next year, because like I said, I want to kind of bookend it. So if you have a good combo of books that might be a good capstone for me, just please let me know. And if you have any other recommendations, I get 2 books that I'm allowing myself to buy for my birthday. So if you pick a good enough one for a recommendation, it might be one of them that I get. So that being said, once again, happy reading and thank you. Have a great day.